Hello, welcome, my dear students. This is Dr. Osama Kashwa, and this is chapter 15. We will talk about chapter 15 right away. The main important points in chapter 15 in our purchasing curriculum. And let's go directly to chapter 15 and see. Here is the screen now shared. And yeah, so we'll go to chapter 15. It's about purchasing law and ethics, about the ethics and how to apply the ethics in buying and in selling, especially in the purchasing management. So we'll go first to page 19 directly. Competence parties or mutual assets and page 19 must be either a principal or qualified agent, must not have engaged in any fraudulence before, own well free, no force coercion, willing willingness to enter into agreement. So those are the point here. In point 21, the legal subject matters, illegal purposes render to a contract. Those are about the conditions of the contract. Um, this is very, very important. The main page which I need here is the contracting process. So what I said before is just serving in this point. And if you get a question, it will be here. The contracting process. Requests for quotation started with the quotation itself. Quotation means send me the prices. What are your prices? This is again page 21 is very important page. I'm telling here the contracting process said first thing in the quotation means send me your prices. What are your prices of selling and buying? Supplier's quotation, then the supplier will send the quotation. The prices is like blah, blah, blah. For the description of this item, the prices will be like this. Then it will goes into two things. Negotiations means like up and down, like bargaining in the price. I will bargain in the price. No, $10 is more. Exactly same like when you are buying and selling. It's same procedures. If you go to buy from some shop or something and you say, hey, this is very expensive, why don't you let the price little down? So then in the negotiations also there will be the contract building. Means if he say the delivery within 20 days, you will say no, 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 I want delivery to be within 7 days. I can't do this in 7 days, he will say, the supplier. Then you will say back, okay, let it be like 10 days, that's fine, 10 days is fine. So it is negotiations going back and forth. Context awards, this is also another point, the context awards. Then contract awards, the things of the contract, and the contract administration means how to run the contract. And this is also a very important point. Uh, those are the points of explanation of what I said. But the most important thing in the model here is the contracting process. What are the contracting process? In this point, those are explanation for it. As example, request for quotation include the standard terms, quantity, and the delivery terms of delivery and payment, description of the goods, review of legal counsel, description of manners and time periods, how long it will take till you deliver me the goods, and other services like if there is after sale services or whatever. So this is the point. Also, you'll have here request for a quotation like not a legal offer or act as a request for price, or so all the things surrounding the purchasing issue will be here on the contract. Uh, the PO stands for the purchase order. So those are the major points of the purchase order. Fixed prices and quantities, buyer's right, including the taxes itself also. So this must be included in the purchase order. Those are points. Those are points that must be included in the purchase order. Fixed prices and quantities, buyer's right of inspection. I have the right to inspect the goods. I have to make sure that what I will pay for is right, and I'm putting my every penny in the right place. Right to make a specification design changes, holding buyer harmless. So yeah, patent infringement. So also I'm taking something, I'm quite sure that this is a right, having a copyright or is having a patent, or it's it's not imitation by other meaning or fragment or whatever, fragment or whatever. So this also, the major points also, the purchase order, supplier's right to assign contract to third party, instructions regarding risk of loss, what I will do. At example, you are importing oil, and this oil, what will happen if it goes in the seas for piracies, or it goes for people like it's lost like because of sinking the tank, the ship or the fare sink in the water or something. Then what you will do then? Statements of credit and payment terms, identification, packing and preparation, statements of warranty. This is another point. So also the shipments, quantities, and dates. We talk about this, the dates of the type of shipment, free on board or loco or franco. This is another point. How you will give me my materials which I bought from you. Will you give it to me like free on board, loco or franco? Are you going to deliver it loco? Means delivery at the seller's shop. This means loco, LOCO. Is it delivery at the seller shop or is it delivery at the buyer's shop? I have to know. Arbitration clause, if there is anything like any kind of argument or issues or conflict, which the court will be responsible, where we will go for, as example, for if we will complain or if we will sue, where we will do this. Rights to cancel unpublished portion, and this is also another point. About the prices, everything should be clear as well. Yeah, so all this is are the points. Also, it will determine, you have to say when I will cancel the order. Cancellations for defaults, something's wrong. Cancellation for convenience of the purchaser, or cancellation of mutual consent, means both of us will cancel the contracts. So these are cases of the cancels of the contract. And of course, the main important point in canceling the contract is that one of the two parties did not do what he's supposed to. So we signed, both of us, our willings went to something, so both will be responsible about our willing. My willing to pay as a purchaser, and you're willing to deliver the right thing in the right place in the right time as a supplier. So if something is breaching both of those, then in that case, there will be a cancellation for the contract. The most important thing is the cancellation by mutual consents doesn't automatically result in legal action. Parties may negotiate any potential loss between the parties. So we can say, okay, as long as the order is canceled, then let's see, everyone will take, we have to see the damages, and we can, before going to courts or anything, we can save it, solve it here on the negotiation table. Breach of contracts, like I told you, it's a violation for the contract itself. And this is another point which we are talking about. Yeah. I'll move now to another things which is very important here in this chapter, which is, yeah, risks of unethical behavior. The unethical behavior is including actually a lot of things, like may act also by illegal. At minimum, the buyer may lose his job, and so on. So this is a point in which there is, if the buyer's reputation is bad, if the risk of buying company's reputation, all this is unethical behavior. I showed something which is not in me. I showed more than my own size or my own volume. I showed that I'm very perfect in everything, and I'm not. So all this is also types of unethical behavior. This is very important, page 90. Types of unethical behavior. It is reciprocity and personal buying, accepting suppliers' favors, sharps practices, financial conflicts of interests. Those are all points which make it, there's a breaching in the ethical behaviors. Cheating by other meaning, it's like a cheating. Okay, giving this reciprocities is giving an preferential treatment to supplier who are also customers. Restraints of trade issues must rely on legitimate performance and criteria to evaluate suppliers' capabilities. Uh, so that's about, how about the personal buying? What do you mean by personal buying? Purchasing department purchases materials or goods for the personal needs of employees. This is the personal buying. Subject to trade diversion law, some exceptions, sorry, though exists here, often a gray area as to what to do because it's not very clear enough in what to do. So in this chapter, we talk about the contract. The most important back is, like I told you, the contract process and the points which we talk about. And we'll have questions here about this chapter. When we are in class, I will stop and do the questions, and will we have the answers on D2L. Thank you so much. Enjoy your time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Welcome, my dear students, back. This is chapter 16. We had already chapter 15, and this is chapter 16. We will work on right away. And I want you to just, yeah, we'll work on chapter 16 now. The main important points in chapter 16, or the main topics of chapter 16. And I will share the screen right away so that everything will be clear for you guys. Yeah. So we'll go to the main points of chapter 16 directly, and we'll see here. Let's go first to page 4. Page 4. Inventory management. And this is very important, the inventory management. We have to decide what to invent, what to store, and what not to store. We have to decide the economic order quantity, which means the amount of the inventory that should be in the required and not to be less than it. So efficient and effective inventory management is imperative to global competitiveness. Inventory management also applies to non-manufacturing industries, even to the non-manufacturing industries as well. So this is the point first, and I will show you. So what do you mean by lean? Lean objectives in inventory. Flow inventory moves through the supply chain continuously. The inventory will move in the supply chain with minimal queuing or lining. Queuing means lining up, or non-value adding activities being performed. So if there is use for this inventory, that's fine. But don't put the inventory or increase the inventory when you are not in use for it. We are not using it. So because this is excessive amount, if you, as example, I will give you example for this. If your fridge is full of stock, like as example, is full of chicken and beef and this and that, and you will not consume all this amount now, we have two kinds of costs for the inventory. We have holding costs and we have acquisition costs. So the point is that this inventory will cost you supply, the power supply, will cost you the fridging, will cost you manually, like holding and moving and this and that. It will cost you also the transportation costs. All this will be useless. So what I want to say is that you will keep the amount of inventory which you are really in need to. Others know excessive amounts which you don't use now, there is no need to put it or store it. Just store in the inventory the amount which you are in need for. And this is the meaning of this is the point. Pull the customer order starts, work process, striving the excellence, perfect. Okay. Now I will move into this, what I want to say now. and I want to move to page 27, 26. Actually, it's 26. Very important. Why do we store? Why do we store? Why do we have warehouses? Why is the inventory? Why do we keep inventory? Avoid disruption in operational performance. As example, when you need stock raw materials, you will find it. For that reason, I keep inventory. When I need raw materials, I will find it. But suppose how will be the case if I need raw materials and I will not find it? This will be so hard. Support operational requirements. This is another point. This is another point. And then we will go to another point, which is hedge against marketplace uncertainty, because you don't know what will happen in the market tomorrow. So you will store, or you will put inventory part of your raw materials, because you don't know how will be the market tomorrow. The marketplace uncertainty. So you don't know about tomorrow's, how it will looks like. So you will save some of the raw materials for further use in the future. This is one of the reasons, like we are saying, one of the reasons for the inventory. Take advantage of order quantity discounts, because when we buy in bulks in big amounts, we will take discounts. And this is another reason why I go for inventory. And this is another reason. Then I will go to page 27 or slide 27. I'm just taking the main ideas of this chapter. There are also, like there are right reasons for inventory, there must be also wrong reasons for inventory, like you see here. Poor quality and material yields. So there is no need. Why shall I keep bad stuff? Unreliable supplier delivery. This is another point. Extend order cycle time. Inaccurate or uncertain demand forecast. If you made a mistake, if you made a fault, if you made by fault, that you assess your needs not in the right, exactly, you assess your needs less than you ought to, or you assess your needs more or excessive more than you have to. In the two cases, we call it inaccurate. This word inaccurate means more or less than you should need of inventory. This is also wrong reason for inventory. You made a mistake in the inventory itself. We'll go to slide 28. Still, we are in wrong reasons for inventory. And we will see specification custom items of standard application, extended material pipelines, also inefficient manufacturing process. If something is wrong in your production phases, then as example, you add one phase, excessive phase, or unused phase, and you get raw materials for this phase. Of course, this is wrong because this is excessive inventory in this case. So this is another problem. Yeah, so we'll go to slide 29. Creating the lean supply chain. So lean supply, we will say about the just-in-time, a philosophy of manufacturing based on planned elimination of all waste and continuous improvement of productivity, aka as lean production. So just-in-time will tell me I will get only the amount of the inventory. I will store only the amount of inventory, which I will be in real need, which I need. So there will be no more stock. And this depends on the production phases, which I have in my company. So if I will produce 10 units, that means that I have to have an inventory of 10 units from the raw materials. If I will make 10 bedrooms, then I have to have only inventory of 10 bedroom materials in hand. This we call it just in time. What are the GIT? And the GIT, like I told you, it means just in time. I'm talking about the main topics of each chapter, which is very important for your studies now and for your further studies in the future. Okay, elements of GIT have the required inventory needed. So we will have only the needed inventory, improve quality to zero defects. Like I told you before, all the aims of all the programs of quality is to put the quality into zero defects. No problems, no defects in the industries. That's what we want. Reduce lead time by reducing setup, incrementally revise operations, accomplish all of the above at the minimum costs. So these are the elements of the GIT. And this is another question here. We'll have a question about the GIT elements. So prepare yourself for this question as well. Okay. We have also page 32, summary of the GIT philosophy. And this is the most important part actually in this class, after how the part of the mathematical rules of applying the inventory. So summary of the GIT philosophy. GIT can apply a wide range of production and services environment. And GIT companies can use a wide range of planning techniques just in time closely with the TQM supplier management initiatives. So those are the parts of the GIT, which is very important for us. How about if there is a relationship between the GIT and the waste? Yes, there is a relationship between them. Waste is any activity that does not add a value, okay, to the goods or services, okay? And we have something called the 8 wastes. Okay. What are the 8 wastes? Very important. What are the 8 wastes? 8 is a number, wastes. Overproduction. So I'm producing more than I need to produce. Waiting. The waiting is waste as well because it's losing time. Unnecessaries means doing unnecessary activities which is not needed, and from them the transportation, of course. Inappropriate process, unnecessary inventory, excessive amount of inventory, like putting a lot of stuff in your own fridge. You are putting more stuff in your own fridge without need for it. Unnecessary access motion defects, also excess motion defects, and underutilization of employees. So all these are the 8 weights, which is very important for us to know it. So we knew about the just-in-time, we know about the 8 wastes. Let us go to page 35. Here is an example of the GIT example with inventory, and this is very important as well. The GIT example with inventory. Here, we will talk about the supplier. The supplier here, and the phases from the delivery of the inventory from the supplier. The black is an inventory, like you see here, the black parts is the inventory. And from the supplier, it goes A to the stage B to stage C till it reaches to the customer. As example, the supplier to the wholesaler to the retailer, and finally to the customer. So this is the manufacturing process, and here is the inventory. Watch, the inventory is not only moving from supplier to customer directly, but it goes from the supplier to the wholesaler to the retailer, and finally it will go to the customer. It will go finally to the customer. And this is how it works. Look at this. Just in time example without inventory. So in the past slide, we had the inventory and the way from the supplier into the customer. But here now, there is no inventory in the way. It just exactly directly from the supplier into the wholesaler, and no inventory. So it will reach directly from A to B to C to D without being there needs for inventory or stores or warehouses on the way in all the stages from the supplier to the final consumer. Okay. And this depends on also the philosophy of the just-in-time purchasing, because if you will do just-in-time purchasing, of course, there won't be warehouses and inventory system all the way up. It will be from directly from the supplier into the customer. Okay, all of the systems, especially the JIT and the quality, all the quality systems, actually not only the JIT, it's all the quality systems, depends or focus upon zero defects. Frequent shipment to all, lots of sizes. Okay, to small, lots of sizes. Frequent shipment. So I don't depend on giving big bulks on a long period between them. In between, no, I depend on giving small amounts, and the period between them is less. So the frequency of sending the supplies or the raw materials will be more. The frequency of sending the raw materials will be more based on the JIT purchasing and just in time. JIT means just-in-time purchasing. Closer, even collaborative buyer-supplier relationship, because we are always in contact. Hey, I need 15 units. I'm calling the supplier, my supplier. Now I'm the buyer, I'm calling supplier. Hey, I need 15 minutes right away. Can you deliver them? Exactly, it's like the construction, like the concretes. When you see the buildings which is going up, which is rising, when we need a contract truck, we need 5 contract trucks, but we don't store it in advance. We don't bring 300 and put them and say, okay, we'll use them in about 2 weeks. No, it must, so the frequency is higher. There is a direct contact between the supplier and the seller, or the supplier and the buyer. The supplier and the buyer, they are in direct contact, calling each other, harmonizing the sales and the procedures of the supply and the purchasing. Everything is arranged. Okay. Stable production schedules, because I know when I need. Okay. Extensive sharing of information, of course, that as long as the relationship between the supplier and the buyer is very effective, the relationship, then there will be exchanging for sharing of information more. Electronic data interchangeable. This is another point. So what are the barriers of JIT purchasing? What are the barriers? Disparate supply base, historical buyer-supplier relationship, this also affect the JIT. Numbers of the suppliers will also affect the JIT purchasing, and supplier quality performance will affect as well. We'll move now to page 61. I'm talking about the main topics. And will be the end of this chapter. The perfect customer order. It's very important. The perfect customer order. What is the purchase order which will be perfect for me? On time, accurately, and like I told you before, I have to deliver to the buyer the best amount in the best place, in the right time, in the right place, with the right quality, with the proper quality, or the best quality. Suppliers delivery problems, if there is any problem, should be solved. Stock outs, this is another point. Stocks out, we have to manage. If you do a perfect customer orders, you have to take care of this point. Okay, don't do like sometimes we go out to the shop, we say it's out of stock, we don't have it. No, in transit or delivery delays, no delays. So the perfect customer order won't include any delays. It should be right in the right place and the right time. Imperfect customer order is the opposite. Inaccurate quantities, I cannot forecast exactly what I want, so I'm given just number. Hey, I want 10 units of this, while I don't need 10 units, I need 8 only. For that reason, we have to plan very well for what we need to purchase. We have to plan very well for what we need to purchase. Poor quality of finished goods, this is the second point. Poor quality of finished goods. Damage during transit, this is another point. And incorrect or missing documentation. And this is also another point, because we said in the contract, you remember in the chapter, in the X chapter, when we said the contract must be including all the very important points about the contracts. The contract must, the basics of the contract, like the time of delivery, the states of delivery, terms of delivery, terms of payment, the condition and the description of the quality of the goods, the items description, all this must be in the customs order. And the price also, it must be there. So those are very important points to talk about. Delivering the perfect customer order, material requirements planning, distribution requirements planning, supply chain inventory planners, automated inventory tracking system. All these points we have to care about in the delivery of the system and the stuff. And now I will move into 68, and this is the last page here. What is the automated? What do we mean by automated tracking system? Involve computerized materials and EDI systems to track inventory through the entire supply chain. Connect suppliers, production plants, field distribution centers, and customers. Are based on EDI, barcoding, and Raft technologies. This is the automated system. As example, like what's happening in Amazon. This is a figure of the, or something, an ideal or model of the automated tracking system. Also the same thing you'll find in Alibaba and other systems for ordering online, purchasing online in the whole world. So it must be including all this, provide real-time visibility. And this was the last point. In this chapter, we talk about the inventory, how to talk about the inventory. We talk about the word lean. We talk about the right inventory in the right time. We talk about the right order and the conditions of inventory. We talk about JIT, just in time. We had questions about this chapter. Thank you so much and have a very good night. Bye-bye. Welcome, my dear students. This is chapter 17. This is chapter 17, and this is the most important points in chapter 17, chapter 17. So it's about the purchasing services, and the most important point in purchasing services. And I will go to the main topics and the main ideas of the chapter. Quickly, I will move into what do you mean by logistics? What do you mean by the logistics? Logistics is that part of the supply chain management that plans, implement, and control the efficient, effective forward and reverse flow of storage of goods and services. Always we talk about the goods and services like I taught you. We don't say goods only, but we usually say goods and services, the flow of goods and services, and related information between the point of origin and the point of consumption or the destination. The origin is the supplier and the destination is the consumer, in order to meet customers' requirements. This is in order to meet customers' requirements. Okay, so those were the points of the logistic definition. Now we'll go into number 14, slide number 14. Still I'm in the main topic ideas. Managing transportation services. And actually here, we need to know transportation is a major cost center, of course, because without transportation, you won't be able to deliver your goods and services to the consumer. Material costs in terms of impact. There are costs for transportation. Transportation affects the production and the scheduling system, because if you are not in time, if it's late, that means everything, the production will be late. Inventory levels, yes, because it will increase or decrease the inventory level. Inventory carrying costs, of course, because of transportation, it will be increased. Customers' orders management also will be affected by the managing termination or the transportation services. Still, we go in the page number 15, slide 15. We'll have, there are new rule for the supply chain management? Yeah. More active, because nowadays it become more active in sourcing most, if not all, the transportation services, not just inbound logistics. Inbound logistics means we have inbound logistics and we have outbound logistics. Inbound logistics means here on the supplier's land. Carrier selection, What are you going to transport with? Are you going to transport with the water, like ferries, ships? Are you going to transport your goods like the oil and pipelines? Are you going to transport your goods in trucks or trains, railways, or whatever? So it depends on your carrier selection. 3PL provider selection, and we see it negotiate long-term freight agreements. How the agreements in the long term by negotiations. And we have talked before about the art of negotiations and how to come to a solution for a problems or something of a conflict or struggling between two parties. Evaluate carrier's performance as well. Still, we are in the new rule of the supply management, and we'll talk about arrange pickup and delivery. How we'll arrange it, processing demand and loss claims, tracing and expediting shipments, coordinating inter-plant and outbound movements, and auditing freight bills for accuracy, and determining the plant and waterhouse locations. So all these points also are new rules that comes into the supply chain management. Here, let us go to page 18. Very important idioms, because it is including all what you have to know about the shipment, about freight, about. Okay, let's start with the FOB. The FOB here, this FOB means free on board, buyer controls or direct shipment, the buyer. So it's free on board. You have, as a buyer, to carry all the costs of transportations. Buyer assume title and risk of loss of selling. So it's his responsibility on the risk of loss, the buyer, not the seller, the buyer. Seller has following UCC responsibilities: put goods in position of carrier. It's now on the carrier. This is the seller. I said, I put it for you, upload it on the carrier. Make a proper contract for transportation, and I made the contract for the transportation. Obtain and deliver documents to buyer. Promptly notify the supplier, the shipper of shipment. Then I will tell the buyer that I put the stuff which you bought on the ship or on your carrier, and everything is fine. And yeah, this is the responsibilities of the seller in this case. But this is not responsible about the risk taking, about the goods. If it sink inside the water or if it's spoiled, this is not his responsibility. Okay, that's in the contract, which is based on free on board, FOB. All the responsibilities of the risk will go into the buyer, not to the seller. Okay. Still, we are in FOB destination. Sellers is required to own at own risk and expenses of transportation goods. This is another type. Sellers assumes title to goods and risks of loss until satisfactory delivery to buyer's facility. So, still here, the responsibility is about the seller in points based on the agreement itself. But free on board means that I will put for you the stock. I will put for you the stock on the shipment carrier. Then it's yours. I will notify you that I assume to put it there based on the size of the contract, type of the contract. Who will carry the responsibility of risk? Who will carry? It's based on the type of the contract then. We'll go after this into page 23. Very important, this part, and the most important part in all the class of today. What are the transportation modes? What are the transportation modes? Are they the motor carrier, or the retail carrier, or the air carrier, or the water carrier, or the pipelines carriers? We have 5 kinds of transportation modes. Which one of them? It is the motor carrier, retail carrier, air carrier, water carrier, and pipeline carriers. Okay, each one is having advantages and disadvantages. So the motor carriers, direct door to door. Yeah. Ideal for lower volume shipments, as example, the trucks, this and that, involving multiple shippers. And so only like the food stores as example, it does not go only for one shop. The long trucks which you see in the roads, as example, when it's delivery for it deliver here apart like Tim Hortons as in the morning, when you see this big trucks, it's not only for one shop, it's for multiple buyers, multiple shops of Tim Horton or branches. It goes not only for one branch, it goes for many branches of Tim Horton. Good speed and reliability, especially for trucked shipments. So this is another point. Um, the motor carrier's disadvantages. We have advantages. We'll talk about the advantage of the motor carrier. Now we will talk about the disadvantages of the motor carrier. So the disadvantages are relatively higher cost in a volume basis because its cost is high, because it sounds is you are always in the motors like the trucks and these things. The amounts are very small, it's not so much, so the cost per one unit of the transportation will be higher. It's not like the ship as example, or not like the trains, the railways. So the cost per unit for the transportation will be higher, you see. Okay, minimal economies of scale, higher variable costs, subject to a seasonal weather and infrastructure conditions. Also, this affect the motors carrier as a carrier. The second thing of the carriers is the rail carrier, which is the trains, by simply the trains, capable of hauling a wide range of goods. Most freight consists of large quantities, relatively low costs, and on per pound basis, low variable cost, excellence, economies of scales. And this is the second point also to know. It's also about the retails. In the excellent economies of scales mean that it's thrifting, it's saving money, because the amounts here is not like the trucks. The amounts are more than the trucks. So the cost per unit for transportation cost per one unit will be lower, will be down, won't be more, it will be less. This is another point. And also, let's see, let's go also to the, sorry about that. This is slide number 26. Yeah, I'll go to 27. 27. Okay, 27. Rail carriers disadvantages. This is about the disadvantages of the trains. Comparatively high fixed costs. The costs are high comparatively. Limited, if we compare it as example to the ships, it's very high also. Okay, the more you will upload of your items on a carrier, the less the cost will be for a one unit. Limited accessibility without using motor carriers for pickup and delivery. Yeah, because the motors move into the streets and these things, but for the trains, they have only stations and stops. So you have to take another transportation to the distance. Because the trains are having only stations to stop in, but the tracks, they move on till they go to the place of destination. So that means for the trains, you have to take another transportation till you go to the final destination or the customer. Limited door-to-door services, long in transit and handling times, of course, because it's bulk amounts, so it will take time in transits. Multiple switches and handling required also. This is another thing, because you might change from a train to a train, or the trains will be changed. This machine or this train car will be out, and another train will come to pull the cargo. So all this takes time. How about the air? The air means the flights which the aeroplanes which we use, the aeroplanes. Quickly satisfy emergencies requirements, because it's very good, suitable for things that, as example, the flowers, the fruits is very good to go in the air, because it takes no longer time than 5, 6, 12 hours, and this will not deteriorate or spoil the fruits, as example, or the roses or the flower. It won't be spoiled, it will reach in time. As in Dutchland, they export most of the flowers by planes. can support just-in-time inventory. So yeah, because you are very fast, you deliver very fast. So this is very good for GIT system. It goes on well with the GIT system, right? Right. Okay. It goes well with the yeah. So this is another point. The third point is high level of competition helps hold down prices because there are a lot of air cargos. So this will make the cost go down because everyone, the demand will be less than the supply. So the prices will go down for the cost of transportation in that case. Air carrier disadvantages. What about the drawbacks of the air carriers? The air carrier disadvantages represented in high cost per pound. Yes, like I told you, it won't be so much. Limited amounts and types of freight. Fuselage shape limits container size and shape because the plane itself will limit the container size and the shapes of it. High variable to fixed cost ratio and requires combination with the motor carrier. The water carrier advantages. The water is just the like using the ships and ferries, using ships and ferries. Okay, can handle very large quantities. That's right, of bulks. Relatively low cost per pound. Maybe the lowest costs is using the ships because it's the lowest costs. But still, there is also a drawback uh, for using ships. Limited shipping and receiving points, seasonal limitation of on inland waterway. Yeah, because it's there is a places only a stops, which is the harbors and the ports in the world, but no like inside the countries. No, it's only in the borders or in the side and the coasts of the countries. Potentials for natural disasters, and this is another problem. The water, when there is a storm in the sea or something, and you hear from a time to time always that there is a drone or a sink for the ship. So it's always potential to risks. Uh, Typically required motor or rail carriers for pick and delivery. Yes, because the ships does not go to the consumer. The ships does not go in lanes like the trucks into the consumer. Ships stand in harbors or ports. Then after that come the trucks and take those. So you will need a second and the third way of transportation. Still, you still have the problem. How about the pipelines? How about the pipelines? Pipelines carry advantage. Low cost transportations for liquid petroleum products. It's usually they use it for the water and the oil. Those are the two things most commonly used on the pipelines. For the pipelines, usually we use the water for shifting the water from a place to a place, like the cultivation water, the agricultural water, and drinking water. And at the same time, the mainly is for the oil. The pipelines is for the oil, for shifting the oil and the gas, the oil from one place to another place. Crude oil, which means not refined, it shifts from a place to another place. Low cost transportation for liquids can handle very quantities of products available, not affected by weather condition and not affected by weather condition. This is another point. The disadvantages of it is extremely slow, yes, because this depends on the push of the liquids itself inside the pipes. High fixed costs, yes, the fixed cost of it is infrastructure because it costs millions and billions of dollars to build a pipeline for oil, as example. Look at that one in British Columbia now, in Vancouver, or in British Columbia, and how they want to get the oil into the east or onto the states by the pipelines. So this costs too much, and it's a very huge amounts of money spent in infrastructure. Fixed routes and rights of way. And this is another point because it is only fixed. It cannot turn right and turn left. It's a pipe. So the pipe will go straight ahead. Yeah. We will move on now to another page, which is now we move into 49. 49. Yeah, 49. An effective approach to supplier selection. How will I select a supplier? I have to do a process, a plan for the best supplier. I will select the best supplier. I will implement, means go for a contract with the best supplier. I will improve if I have any problem in the supply chain management, then I will improve it. And he's for me like a partner. So those are the points which I will care about when I do effect supply. So plan, I will define specific logistic services requirements, confirm the selection process, involve the key players to ensure internal buy-in, remove barriers for the success of this operation. Select target-based in-class logistic services providers. I will select them. Select the 3PL or contractor, the kind of contractor. Negotiate mutually beneficial agreement with your supplier. Implement, I will put it into action now. Share supply chain information to deliver superior values. Build the relationship with your supplier, of course. Work jointly to resolve startup issues. And if any problems happen when you start on the supplying process, improve always any work need improvement. Exchange performance measurements to identify improvement opportunities. Encourage cross organization training and project activities. Partner, develop supply chain alliances to degree to trade off and share. So you will have more than one supplier and you will need the help of more than one supplier. So this, try always to keep in a good relationship with them. Involves 3PL partners in joint strategic plan and decision making. And this is the second point. Those are the three things which I want you to know here. Um, and yeah, we need to go to 89 now. So quickly we'll move into 89. 89. This is about the most important part of this chapter, or one of the most important parts of this chapter, is the challenges that is facing nowadays supply chain. So we have imprecise and unclear specifications. Those are things like something is not clear in the process of the supply chain. Not having a well thought out and truly defined set of performance and outcomes expectation. Everything must be clear. Everything must be known very well. Determining satisfactory progress scope deep, not defending what constitutes competition or levels of efforts. Conclusion is the end part of this chapter, and I will ask the questions about the conclusion. What did you come to know today from what we talk about in this chapter? I wish you a very good night and thank you. And this was chapter 17. Thank you so much. Enjoy your night and have a very good day. Thank you. See you in the next class. Bye bye.